No matter what, people will commit to misunderstanding you. What's most important is your commitment to understanding yourself. Hello, you guys. My name is Nkirka Madani, known as NK, and welcome back to Misunderstood. Back once again in the CoverGirl studio. This is my 5th month in the studio, and I'm so happy to be here. The girls here are so sweet, always super accommodating, as well as always give me a little goodie bag. Today's favorite they gave me was the CoverGirl Clean Fresh Nourishing Milk. So this is used as either a primer or a finishing spray. I put some on right before recording and I feel so fresh. I have to say, I feel so fresh and I feel a lot more glowy and hydrated. Things you do and don't while abroad. Today, we are going to be talking about traveling abroad and specifically unpacking my recent trip to Ireland. There is a lot to talk about, so buckle up. But before we get started, please take some time right now to rate Misunderstood, this podcast, 5 stars. Rating the show is extremely important to the success of the show. I'm so happy with the viewership and I love hearing your guys' stories in relation to the podcast. Something free and easy you can do as you are listening is take some time and rate the show 5 stars on Apple, Spotify, wherever you are listening. Thank you so much. This episode is going to relate to anybody who has traveled with a friend, traveled with a significant other, traveled with anyone other than yourself. This is going to really unpack a lot of things that are a little uncomfortable to experience, but it is good to talk about because, as we know, we all have shared experiences. A lot of us just don't want to talk about them, but in talking about them, that is where we find common ground and that is where we learn how to better navigate situations in the future. And instead of just telling you the story in chronological order, I thought it would be more fun to actually list out do's and don'ts while abroad. Let's get the negative out of the way and end with positives. I have 7 items to share with you guys that are don'ts for traveling abroad. Don't overpromise and underdeliver. I was given information for my trip to Ireland, which I want to be very clear, I booked my trip to Ireland as a solo trip. I had ran it by someone else to see if they wanted to come with me. They, at the time, could not attend, so my trip was going to be a solo trip. It came to my attention that less than a month after I had bought my flight, still almost a month before the trip to Ireland, this person told me that this guy who we both know and met in New York bought her flight. I was excited for her and said, great, now we get to go together. Although I had already carved out my own solo time for the trip after her departure from Ireland. The guy in question who bought her flight had told her, which she had told me, that there were certain things about the trip that he would cover. Me being a very type A, organized person, that was hard for me to wrap my head around. However, I decided to take her word for it, take his word for it, and not press the issue, not inquire further. I let them converse about the plans, and I just sat back with the trust in what I was told. When it came time for the trip, mind you, I was there for 5 days, but the first 3 days are where the others were involved. First day, everything went well, good spirits. The middle of the second day is when things started to go awry. I got a text from the girl who I was traveling with who said the guy is now saying he is not able to accommodate hotels for me. He's not able to fund certain things that, again, I was told before I even got on that plane, certain things were happening. So obviously I'm going off of that. This is where overpromise and underdeliver comes in. I really wish that I was told clear information up front, and even if things changed in the moment, I should have not heard this information from her. I should have heard this information from him. And even when I felt very uncomfortable about this information being sprung on me, I was still trying to rectify the situation with trying to find my own accommodations. I started to look at Airbnb. I started to look at Hotel Tonight. These are places that I've used extensively for my own solo travels for years. and I was more than willing to pay for my own accommodations, but he made it an entire scene. Made me feel bad for wanting to look into my own travel and my own lodging when he was driving us around so many places, which I appreciate the fact that he took time out of his life, his schedule, and drove us places. However, I had no idea where we were going. I had no idea really what was entailed. I was truly just a passenger in the car and a passenger on the trip. Even prior to the trip, there was an entire list of things that we had wanted to do. We had never been to Ireland, and we are in a foreign country that we don't know anything about. So we did want to rely on him for a lot of the planning and the execution of the trip. However, when it came down to it, most of the things that he said that we were going to do, we never did, which honestly just sucks, because if we had better planning and better clarity at the top of the trip, most of what had happened would have not happened. Number 2, don't put people in uncomfortable situations. And if you feel uncomfortable in a situation, I want to interject this: do not stay. Do not stay, and do not feel pressured about staying in an uncomfortable situation. I found myself in an uncomfortable position based on the scenario. Day 2, we drove all the way to the countryside to an area I don't even know how to pronounce. It was then I was sprung this information of the lodging, where if we were in Dublin, if we were in the city, it would have been way easier to navigate the situation. However, to put me in that position going into an area that is so far outside of city limits is honestly very, very dangerous and really disrespectful. I felt so backed into a corner. I felt like I didn't have any way out. Truly, if it came down to it, I would have just taken a taxi all the way back to Dublin. Yes, that would have been extremely expensive, but for the sake of my well-being, I really tried to discern how this was going to go. And I did also know that I only had a day and a half left with them before I went off and did my own solo trip. The moral of the story with that situation, he definitely should have talked to me one-on-one. I was one who had to go to him and tell him, I was told this information via text. Let's just talk about this right now. Let's figure out how we are going to navigate this situation. And he told me to my face that don't worry about it, no problem. So I was just very much trying to navigate, feeling so uncomfortable, knowing that him and her were trying to sort out their feelings for each other. That was another layer to the trip, which we will absolutely get to. But I learned so much about them in that short span of time that was very telling, and it really made me really sad that a lot of what happened. Number 3, don't get mad if you don't speak up. This is going back to what I had just said. Was going through those first 3 days feeling so annoyed and so shitty because again, I did not know what was happening. I did not know where we were going, when we were going, what we were really doing. I felt like I wasn't really part of the trip, didn't really include me in certain ways. But what I had heard after the trip, after the fact, from the girl who told me via text, by the way, is that the guy felt like I was taking advantage of him. This all goes back to being communicative. I'm a very communicative person. They are both not the most communicative people. So that's where we will find constant roadblocks, constant clashing. If you don't tell me that you felt this way throughout the trip, how am I supposed to know how to navigate that, how to rectify the situation? And also, let me say this very, 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 very clear. There were so many times that I said I would like to look into my own accommodations. That was met with, well, then I'll just pay for it. So it really comes down to it's either what you say or there's no other alternative. That's not okay. That doesn't work. Also, putting someone in a position in a foreign country where they are completely unfamiliar and very last minute telling them to just pay for a hotel room when it was previously disclosed and confirmed that certain parts of the stay would have already been paid for, which is why I budgeted how I did, is just so horrible. I honestly cannot believe I had the situation even play out. I've traveled so many times with so many other people, and I was very, very disappointed with how things played out for those first 3 days on the trip. And when it comes down to it, if you're not able to speak up, but then when you decide to hold a grudge and be mad, that says more about you than anything else. Number 4, don't pack without checking the weather. If you are familiar with Ireland, Ireland is a very rainy city. It reminds me a lot of Seattle, actually. It's very gloomy as well, windy, very reminiscent of Seattle. I did look at the weather prior to packing for the trip. I also was packing while moving apartments, which was a whole shit show in and of itself, but I do believe that the items I packed and what I actually brought and wore worked pretty well for all the climates that we faced throughout the trip. There was one day that it was pouring rain, so I was happy that I had my rain boots. When I was leaving JFK to come to Ireland, I remember that day so clearly. I was so stressed out because I literally moved apartments that very day, and I had my suitcase and I was wearing my Hunter rain boots to the airport, and everyone was probably looking me sideways and thinking, why the heck is she wearing rain boots? Obviously, they didn't know where I was going, but I'm so happy that I brought my rain boots because I checked the weather. Imagine if I didn't check the weather, honestly. I would have been drenched. My shoes would have been probably ruined, and a lot of more negative things would have happened if I did not check the weather. So I am happy that I checked the weather prior to the trip. And I also tried to buffer for changes. I did bring probably 3 or 4 extra pairs of clothes just in case something got ruined, just in case something got dirty, just in case I happened to do multiple outfit changes in a day. Always be prepared with what you pack. Number 5, don't go over budget. So this is going back to what I was saying at the beginning of being met with a bill that I was not projecting for. The first 3 days, while she was with me on the trip and he was taking us around, it was confirmed that while she was there, I would be able to have lodging along with her. Once she leaves, obviously I am on my solo trip and I'm doing my own thing. That completely made sense. However, night 3, when I was met with the bill at the hotel, I was pretty shocked. Unfortunately, I looked at the bill. I believe it was 180 euro, which is 200, I think 210. Don't quote me because obviously the euro and the currency changes literally daily, but it was over $200 for a one night stay in this one-off random hotel. When I travel by myself, I am pretty cost effective with where I choose to stay, knowing that I am doing an international trip. There are more days on the trip and I need to budget accordingly. So I was not going to let someone else try to dictate what I'm supposed to spend, where I'm supposed to spend it, how I'm supposed to spend it. So that is when I brought up, this is out of my budget. I am going to look into my own accommodations on Airbnb, Hotel Tonight, which have worked so well in the past. And as I mentioned, he just ended up paying for it, but it just felt so uncomfortable because I obviously can pay for things on my own. It's about me getting the choice. I never want to feel forced into something that, again, I didn't choose, I didn't research, I didn't even know where we were. So that obviously puts people in uncomfortable scenarios. And then going back to just budgeting generally, when you go on a trip, I've said this before, but you should definitely be budgeting 3x over what you think you would frugally spend for incidentals. The specific situation I just detailed was not a true incidental, but in general, you should be budgeting 3x for your trip just in case. If you know that you are doing other excursions and other things on your trip, use discernment, use common sense, and don't blow all of your money in one place because you're obviously going to need some money to get through your entire trip. Number 6, don't forget your adapter. This is such a rookie mistake. I have literally been to so many different countries. I've been to Europe 5 times now. I cannot believe that I forgot my adapter. It's really not that big of a deal. The adapters were $6 in Ireland, but don't forget your adapter. I'm telling you this right now. When you travel abroad, if you've never traveled abroad, highly recommend doing that. Super fun. If you are from the US traveling abroad for the very first time, buy an adapter. The outlets in America are different than the outlets in Europe. Day 1, when I checked into the hotel, I tried to plug in my phone because it was almost dead. And I was like, oh shit, I forgot my adapter. What a classic mistake. So don't be like me. Bring your adapter. Number 7, don't travel with couples. Let's get into it. The 2 people who I have been referencing, they hit it off back in New York, which is the day we all met a few months ago. And they had been talking while he lives in Ireland, she lives in New York, and that is how she got to go on the trip. However, there was so many points of this trip where the dynamic between them tainted experiences for the entire group, kind of left this weird lingering cloud of discomfort in the group, which is so unfortunate. This is a group. It's not just you guys and me. It is a group. There were a lot of times I did not feel that way. There was a lot of times I felt like you're on your own. You do your thing. And that is just so shitty. And again, this really all just comes down to communication, which is a pillar of my life that I drive home every damn second. Communicate. Freaking communicate. Because most of the shit that happened would not have happened if they just communicated. Now, on a more positive note, let's talk about the do's while abroad. And I also want to share that the do's and don'ts don't only apply to being abroad. You can apply this to literally anywhere you go, any travel excursions that you go. Obviously, some of these are international specific, but use this in any case you are traveling. Do, number 1, give yourself solo time. Again, I kept on saying this throughout the trip. Thank God I had 2 full days by myself in Ireland. If I did not, I would have been so upset. That would have probably been my biggest regret. Honestly, having those 2 full days on my own allowed me to actually enjoy the trip that I paid for, actually enjoy the time in this beautiful country. And I felt free. I know that sounds kind of dramatic, but I felt free. I felt like I wasn't tied to this negativity and I could do things on my terms and really enjoy myself. And you guys know I am a strong proponent of solo trips, and I am counting Ireland as a solo trip because I did have a few days by myself and I did book the trip on my own. So I'm just choosing to block out the negative parts of the trip and really only focus on the positive, which leads me to say Ireland is officially my 10th solo trip. And I'm really proud to say at 30 years old, I have gone on 10 solo trips and it has made me so much of a stronger person. I've learned so much about myself in all of the best ways. Number 2, take accountability when it is due. The one thing I wanted to make sure to express to the guy is that I was very appreciative of him driving us around. He did drive us around the countryside and he did take us to Cliffs of Moher, which I would have definitely had to either rent a car or went on a separate tour to be able to see that. And that is something I've always wanted to see. So I absolutely thanked him for that. And honestly, I don't want anyone to feel like I'm taking advantage of them. I don't want anyone to feel upset and hurt. That is never my intention. I just felt so confused most of the trip, and it was really hard for me to even navigate what was happening because no one was communicating to me, to my face. But I will say accountability is due whenever you are traveling with other people. And this really does come with traveling with other people because that is when you really learn about people in a different light. It was frustrating to see that the girl who I had went with, she had even told me personally, why does it matter that you have to pay for your hotels here? You were already going to pay for hotels while you were on your solo trip. And that was a very, very unfortunately telling thing that she said. It was very inconsiderate of her. She said that she had financial constraints, but to say something like that to me felt like you were being very selfish and you weren't thinking about me and if I had financial constraints, because newsflash, you're not the only one with financial constraints. And also the only reason why you got to come on this trip is because someone else paid for it. I paid for my flight. I paid for my lodging for the 2 days that I was solo. She did not. So for her to say something like that was a very unfortunately telling thing that really broke my heart and really made me reconsider everything that I knew about her. Number 3, wear proper walking shoes. So as I mentioned, I had my hunter boots, which are obviously not for walking, but I did make sure to bring my Nike New Balance shoes. I love bringing sneakers to a trip. I believe I've always brought a pair of sneakers to any trip. It doesn't even matter if I don't think I'm going to be walking or if I'm just on the beach. I literally wear sneakers on the plane. I do that just so that I know that I have at least a proper walking shoe, because you will be so surprised. You walk so much while you are traveling, especially in Europe. I am no stranger to that. I've been to Italy, I've been to Spain, I've been to Paris, I've been to London, and the amount of walking I did there would actually blow your mind. Upwards of 20, 30,000 steps a day. So making sure you have proper walking shoes to make sure you don't get blisters and make sure that you are taking care of your feet is so important. Number 4, take naps, especially when you are abroad. Because of time change, your body is trying to come to terms with what is happening and where you are. And if you're not taking naps, then your body really can't recharge. So taking a midday nap, even a early evening nap, if you're planning on going out, is so key. I did take 2 naps. I am so happy I did, because I was definitely struggling with the time change. If you don't know, the time change between New York and Ireland is 5 hours. And 5 hours is a pretty big chunk of time. And I even remember coming back from the trip, I literally was not back on a normal sleep schedule until day 4 or day 5 of being back. So when you travel, it is so important to take those moments of time to rest and recharge. And I recommend a 30 to 45 minute nap. Don't take too long of a nap, because then you won't be able to sleep at night. Number 5, express yourself how you want. I want to talk about in real life and in social media. While I'm traveling, especially while I'm on a trip in a place I've never been, I want to really, really lean in. Really, truly lean in, immerse myself, talk to as many people as possible, be happy-go-lucky, be funny, be silly, be goofy, be all the things that sometimes I feel like in my life in New York, my day-to-day, I kind of mute myself, which totally working on, but I felt myself really leaning in to my experience in Ireland and really understand a lot about myself, a lot about my thresholds, a lot about my likes and dislikes. It was so important. And then on social media, I love more than anything else to detail my travels on social media, specifically Instagram stories. That is really when I go off, and I'm posting probably upwards of 20, 30 stories a day while I'm on vacation. And here's the thing. It's really not for other people. Yes, I'm posting it publicly so other people can obviously watch it, but my Instagram stories are for me. My Instagram stories are for me to look back on my life and smile and laugh and be happy that I took the time to document them, because these are memories forever. If someone else thinks that me posting a ton on my stories is annoying or cringy, I don't give a fuck. You can unfollow me. You are spending your time watching me. Let's just think about that. You're spending your own time, you're using your own free will and watching my stories. My stories are for me. Social media is for you to express yourself how you want. So click post, don't give a shit. You'll have the memories forever. I personally just love going back in time in my archive and looking at all of the stories of all the places I've been, because at this point, I've been to so many places in the world, and I'm so proud of that, because most of those places I took myself to. And it's just a moment in time that I can just look back and really reminisce, and it is so beautiful. Number 6, learn about the culture you are visiting. I had known about Ireland to some degree before traveling here, but what I will say is my 2 solo days in Ireland were magical. I walked around aimlessly. There was also a bank holiday in Ireland the day that I was there, and I learned that there are bank holidays very often in Ireland. I learned that the people in Ireland are just so full of love and light. They're just so warm and kind. I actually got to sit in a bar, or sit in a pub, that's what they call them, in Galway, which is a day trip from Dublin. It was a 2.5-hour train ride. I just stumbled into this bar called Chi Coli, and I have to say it kind of changed my life. That sounds dramatic, but there are just some places that will make you reconsider everything. It'll make you look at life so holistically instead of so narrow-minded. I got to sit with Kathy and Ray, 2 strangers, and we all left as friends. They are a bit older than me. They were probably in their late 40s, but they had so much wealth of knowledge, and they told me about their experiences in Ireland and how they grew up here. Literally brought me to tears. I was actually tearing up in this bar with these strangers. You just get such a beautiful essence of the world when you decide to learn about how other people live. Because at the end of the day, we live our own lives and do our own thing and are in our own bubble. But when we step out of our bubble, we are then able to learn more about ourselves through learning about other people. And I'm just so happy. I literally have chills right now. I am so happy that I got that hour and a half of time to sit in that bar, listen to beautiful traditional Irish music, and enjoy the fact that life will give you so much, even if things are uncomfortable and shitty. And even if you have some rough patches, life is good and there is so much good that you could find in it. Number 6, AirTag your bags and valuables. I always have my AirTags in my suitcases, in my luggage. This go around, I only had a carry-on, but on the way to Dublin, I did have to check my bags because the cabin was full. So I am very, very happy that I already had my AirTag in there. And if you don't know, an AirTag is a little device that you can put into any bag, any valuable item, and you can track it on your iPhone. There was only one time that my bag got misrouted to a completely different place. I was freaking out because I didn't know when I was going to get my bag back. I did eventually get it, but after that, the next day I bought an AirTag and I said, this will literally never happen to me again. I will know where my bag is at all times. So although I was taking a red eye from JFK to Dublin, I could sleep comfortably in the plane knowing that my bag was on the plane and it was on its way to Ireland. I do want to get an AirTag for my wallet. That is the next step. I'm also thinking of getting an AirTag for my high value bags. I think that's also a little pro tip that you can take away from this episode. Number 8, be aware of your surroundings. Literally always, even on your day-to-day, and especially if you're somewhere that you're unfamiliar, more so be aware of your surroundings. I learned this from a very young age to always look up. Don't have your head in your phone. Don't put on AirPods or headphones. You need to be seeing and hearing everything around you. There's unfortunately so many scary stories of people getting hurt and kidnapped and lost and scary things. So please do not find yourself in a dangerous situation. Always be aware of your surroundings. There was one situation that happened in Ireland. This was on the very last day where I was walking back to the hotel from getting takeout dinner. And mind you, the walk from the restaurant to the hotel was literally a block and a half. Within that block and a half, there was this woman who was definitely homeless, but she also seemed a little mentally unstable. She got up right in front of me, like very suddenly, and it honestly scared the living shit out of me. I was so scared. Nothing like that has ever actually happened to me, so it was just so jarring. And I remember my heart was racing and I quickly went back to the hotel. But let that story just be a PSA, a reminder to be aware of your surroundings. And also, not saying that you need to be fearful of everybody, but that was a woman who did that to me. So just be aware and don't take anything for granted as well. Number 9, know your limits. This one is in relation to drinking. I have learned about myself that I used to be a pretty big drinker back in college, but now I can confidently say I don't drink that much. I just don't. And I realize I don't really have to justify why or what. I just don't. I don't love the way I feel when I'm hungover. I know no one really does, but it does something to me in a very intense way where I am quite literally depressed. So I really try to not get to the point where I am super drunk. I can have a few drinks and be fine, and I know my limits. So absolutely know your limits, not even just with drinking. Know your limits with your energy levels and your capacity for doing activities and traveling. I know there's a lot of people who really love doing a ton of things on vacation. And then there's also people who like to do next to nothing on vacation. Neither is bad. Just know your limits. Know what you can handle. And honestly, vacation is supposed to be enjoyable and relaxing. So go at your own pace. And number 10, go on dates. I went on a date with an Irish man who's from Dublin. He came and picked me up at my hotel. He smelled really good. He was wearing cologne, and I mentioned this on the What Turns You On episode. Guys, wear cologne, please. It's such a simple thing that will go so far. That's the first thing I clocked. I was like, oh my gosh, he smells good. He was tall, he had a beard, all things that I love. Anyways, and also accent. Wow. Ding, 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 ding. Like, he had so many things that were on that list. So let's talk about the date. So he picks me up. He calls the taxi to Camden Street, which has a lot of different bars. Sorry, I keep on saying bars. They're called pubs in Ireland. And we just bopped around. We were at the first place for a while, for an hour and a half. And for me, I'm able to suss out my attraction to a guy quite quickly. And that will determine how the date will go in my head. First off, he was super nice. And I realized that saying nice is probably not the best descriptor for determining if you really like a guy. Saying someone is nice really means they're nice at face value. However, that doesn't mean that I'm sexually attracted to them, and that doesn't mean I have that chemistry that I have had with other people. I realized I would use another leading word if I felt that way. So let me just start off by saying he was not the guy for me, and he wasn't the guy who I felt like ripping off his clothes, and we didn't have that sexual tension, which is important for me. But he was so extremely kind and nice, bought me all my drinks, made sure I was good. He also invited his friends later on with my stamp of approval. They had been texting him. I was the one who said, oh yeah, bring him. Because honestly, I wanted a quintessential Ireland night out, a fun, really core memory night out, which I absolutely got once his friends came. His friends came, and then these other girls who were their friends came, and it was a group of 8 of us. I honestly just think it was meant to be a group outing rather than just a date with him and I. The first hour and a half, just him and I. It was nice, and again, I keep on saying nice, but that's all I can really say. But I didn't feel any spark with him. We did kiss at the end of the night, but again, with the kiss, I didn't feel any butterflies. And that's how you know, ladies. If you don't have a spark during at least the kiss, then everything else is probably not going to give you any butterflies or sparks. So you already know. While abroad or wherever you are traveling, it is so important to take care of yourself as well as really enjoy wherever you are going. I think we all can get a little clouded when we're traveling with other people. We can get clouded when we have a lot of different extremities at play, but I really hope that this list of do and don'ts helped you navigate your upcoming travel, and let this be your sign to get on that flight and go start living. And with that, thank you so much for listening to another episode of Misunderstood. Please remember to rate this show 5 stars on Apple and Spotify and follow it wherever you are listening. Join our Geneva group chat. It is always linked in the description of every single podcast episode. Hang out with me on my other socials, TikTok, YouTube, Instagram, and Pinterest at NKMadani, and I will talk to you guys in my next one.